AITA for evicting my own brother and his girlfriend from my house after my mom said, family doesn't charge family rent. I, 36M, need to get this out because my family is acting like I committed a war crime, and I need to know if I'm crazy or if the rest of them are. My wife says I should post this. She's sitting next to me right now eating a bowl of Bluebell and nodding. So here it is. My name's Wes. I'm an electrician. I work for a commercial construction company out of the Alliance Corridor north of Fort Worth. I pull wire, I run conduit, I terminate panels, and I come home smelling like copper shavings and sweat. I make $74,000 a year, which in Texas in 2025 means I'm doing fine but I'm not rich. My wife Bree, 34F, is a medical coder. She works from home, makes $46,000 a year, and she's good at it. The kind of person who can look at a surgical report and translate it into insurance language while also making sure our daughter isn't feeding goldfish crackers to the dog. We've got 2 kids. Colton is 9. Emma is 6. They go to school in Saginaw, which is a little pocket community north of Fort Worth where you can still find houses with actual yards and neighbors who wave at you from their driveways. We bought our house in 2020 for $278,000. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, and a backyard with a pecan tree that drops nuts all over the patio every October. It's worth about $340,000 now, but we still owe $231,000 on the mortgage. Monthly payment is $1,870 including escrow. That's my money. That's Bree's money. That's the roof over my kids' heads. I need you to understand that number. $1,870 a month. Because it becomes important later. The background on Garrett. My younger brother Garrett, 30M, has always been what my mother calls a late bloomer. What he actually is a guy who's 30 years old and has never once in his adult life finished what he started. He enrolled at Tarrant County College right out of high school. Lasted 1 semester. He said the professors didn't respect his learning style, which as far as I could tell meant they expected him to show up. After that he worked at AutoZone for 3 years, which was actually the longest he ever held a job. He got fired for calling out too many times. Then he worked at a vape shop on Pioneer Parkway. Quit after 5 months because the owner had an attitude. Then he did DoorDash for a while, which he described as being his own boss, but which actually meant he drove around Arlington in a Nissan Altima with a cracked windshield delivering Whataburger at 11 p.m. and clearing maybe $1,400 a month before gas. Here's the thing about Garrett, he's likable. He's genuinely, annoyingly likable. He walks into a room and people laugh. He's the guy at the family barbecue doing impressions of our Uncle Dale, tossing a football with the kids, telling stories that make my Aunt Connie spit out her Dr. Pepper. People love Garrett. They just can't live with him or depend on him for anything more serious than a good time. Our mother Sheila, 59F, retired from working the cafeteria line at a Weatherford ISD elementary school. She gets a small pension and Social Security. She lives in a 1-bedroom apartment near the old courthouse in Weatherford, which is about 45 minutes west of us. And she has spent Garrett's entire adult life making excuses for him. He's figuring it out. He just needs time. Not everyone follows the same path, Wesley. She says my name like that, Wesley, when she thinks I'm being too hard on him. Which, according to her, is always the deal. In January of this year, Garrett's lease on his apartment in Arlington ended. He couldn't come up with a deposit for a new place because, and I want you to really absorb this, he had been spending his DoorDash money on a gaming PC he was building piece by piece. Not saving for housing. Building a computer. A man with no stable income was buying RGB cooling fans while his lease clock was ticking. Sheila called me. And I knew from the second I saw her name on my phone what the call was about. Wesley, your brother needs a place to stay. Just for 2 months. Just until he gets back on his feet. I should have said no. I know that now. But Bree had a soft spot for Garrett. She thought he was funny. The kids loved Uncle Garrett because Uncle Garrett would get on the floor and play with them, build Lego sets, do funny voices. And honestly, I loved my brother too. That's the part nobody talks about. I said yes because I loved him. I told myself it would be fine. I told Garrett directly, 2 months. March 1st, you're out. No exceptions. You save whatever you make, you find a place, and you leave. This isn't a halfway house. Garrett said, Bro, I got you. 2 months, tops. You won't even know I'm here. He moved in with 2 duffel bags, a PlayStation 5, and his gaming PC. He set up in the guest room like it was a studio apartment. He was supposed to be looking for work. What he was actually doing was sleeping until noon, playing games until 3 p.m., doing a few DoorDash deliveries in the evening, and then coming home to eat whatever Bree had cooked for dinner without contributing a dime to groceries. But I let it go, because it was 2 months, and I could handle 2 months. The problem. March 1st came and went. Garrett didn't leave. He didn't mention leaving. He didn't bring it up. When I brought it up, he said he was close to having enough for a deposit. I asked him how much he'd saved. He changed the subject. But that's still not the real problem. The real problem is that 6 weeks ago, so sometime around mid-February, I came home from work and there was a woman sitting on my couch painting her nails. There was a cat on my recliner. And there was a 55-inch TCL television leaned up against the wall next to the door like someone had just carried it in from a car. Garrett came out of the guest room and said, "Oh hey bro. This is Ashton. She's gonna crash here for a few days. Her roommate kicked her out. Nowhere else to go." Ashton, 26F, works at a nail salon in North Richland Hills. She makes maybe $28,000 a year, probably less. She's not a bad person. I want to be clear about that. She's polite enough when she talks to you. She's nice to the kids. But she moved into my house without asking me. She brought a cat named Diesel, a fat orange cat who sheds on everything, and knocked a picture frame off the hallway shelf within the first 3 days. She brought a diffuser that she plugged in the guest room and that pushed eucalyptus oil into the air vents so aggressively that my entire house smelled like a day spa run by someone who'd never been to a day spa. And she started doing nails at my kitchen table. Let me say that again. She sat at the table where my children eat breakfast, and she used acetone and acrylic powder and nail dust and chemical removers, and she left residue on the surface. I could feel it, that slight stickiness under my fingers when I sat down to eat. Colton asked one morning why the table felt weird. I wiped it down with Clorox wipes and the finish still felt off. It still feels off. The stain is still there. I told Garrett the same day, she has to go. This wasn't the deal. The deal was you, for 2 months. It's past 2 months, and now there's a whole extra person and a cat in my house. Garrett said, "Where's she supposed to go, bro? Her roommate kicked her out. She doesn't have family around here. It's temporary." Temporary. That word. Everything in Garrett's life is temporary. His jobs are temporary. His plans are temporary. His promises are temporary. Everything is temporary, which means nothing ever actually ends. It just drifts into the next temporary thing until it becomes permanent by default. Temporarily permanent. That's Garrett's entire life. I called my mother. That was my mistake. I told Sheila what was happening. I figured she'd be reasonable. She drove from Weatherford to Saginaw, 45 minutes, and sat at my kitchen table. The one with the acetone stain. She looked around the house. She looked at the diffuser humming in the guest room. She looked at Diesel sleeping on a pile of my daughter's coloring books. And then she looked at me and said, "Wesley, you have 4 bedrooms. You have space. Garrett finally has a nice girl. Don't ruin this for him." I said, "Mom, I'm paying $1,870 a month for this house. My electricity bill went up $140 since they moved in. They eat our food. They don't buy groceries. Ashton used Breeze shampoo, the $32 bottle from Ulta. Garrett hasn't given me a single dollar for rent. Not one. Not for rent, not for utilities, not for food." She said, "Family doesn't charge family rent." I stared at her. Bree was upstairs. I know she was listening. I could almost feel her blood pressure rising through the ceiling. I said, "Mom, they are living in my house. For free. Eating my food. Using my electricity. And you're telling me I can't even ask for help with the bills." She said, "When you needed braces, I didn't charge you for those, did I?" That's when I realized this was a conversation I was never going to win. Not because I was wrong, but because Sheila had decided 30 years ago that Garrett was the one who needed protecting, and no amount of logic was going to change that. So I stopped trying. Update 1. The house started falling apart. Over the next 2 weeks, things deteriorated in ways that were small individually but collectively suffocating. Bree started sleeping with the bedroom door locked. Not because she was afraid of Garrett or Ashton. Because Ashton had a habit of walking around the house at 1 a.m. Bree woke up one night to the sound of the refrigerator opening and closing. She came downstairs and found Ashton standing in the kitchen in an oversized t-shirt eating shredded cheese straight from the bag. Our shredded cheese. At 1 in the morning. In the dark. Bree didn't say anything. She just went back upstairs, locked the door, and told me the next morning that she didn't feel comfortable in her own home anymore. My wife. In a house we pay $1,870 a month for. Locking the door and whispering because she didn't want the guests to hear her. Colton started getting frustrated because Ashton took 45-minute showers in the morning and he couldn't get into the bathroom to brush his teeth before school. He asked me one night at dinner. Garrett wasn't at dinner because he was out doing deliveries, and Ashton was in the guest room watching something on her TCL TV with the volume loud enough to hear through the wall. Colton asked me, "Dad, is Uncle Garrett ever leaving?" I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Soon, buddy." Emma told her first-grade teacher at Saginaw Elementary that, "There's a new lady in our house and she has a cat and my daddy is mad." The teacher sent a note home. Bree read it in the kitchen and put her head in her hands. I had had enough. Update 2. The 30-day notice. I did research. Here's what I learned about Texas law, because I needed to know where I stood. In Texas, once a person has been living in your house for more than 30 days, even without a lease, even without paying rent, even if they were never formally invited, they are considered a legal tenant. You can't just change the locks and throw their stuff on the lawn, no matter how much you want to. You have to give them a written 30-day notice to vacate. If they refuse to leave after 30 days, you have to file a formal eviction through the Justice of the Peace Court. That process can take 3 to 6 weeks and cost anywhere from $500 to $1,200 in filing fees and potential legal costs. I printed a 30-day notice to vacate. I dated it. I signed it. I made a copy for my records. I handed the original to Garrett in person. He read it. He looked up at me. And he laughed. "You're really gonna evict your own brother," he said. "Like a landlord? Mom's gonna lose it." I said, "Garrett, you brought someone into my house without asking. You haven't paid a cent in 3 months. My wife locks the bedroom door at night. My son can't use the bathroom in the morning. You've had every chance to do the right thing and you haven't. This is the notice. 30 days. He shook his head, folded the paper, and walked back into the guest room. I heard Ashton say, "What was that about?" And Garrett said, "My brother's being dramatic." That night, Sheila called. She was crying. Full crying. The kind of crying she used to do when my dad would come home late and she'd sit in the kitchen waiting. "Wesley, how can you do this to your own blood? He's your little brother. He doesn't have anyone else." I said, "He has you, Mom. He's always had you. That's part of the problem." She hung up. Update 3. The family fallout. 2 days after the notice, my Aunt Connie, Sheila's sister, lives in Mineral Wells, hasn't worked in 15 years, has strong opinions about everything and expertise in nothing, posted on Facebook. Public post. She wrote, "Sad when family treats family like strangers. Some people forget where they came from. Folded hands praying for the Caldwell family." She tagged me. My name, tagged, on a public Facebook post, visible to everyone I know. Bree's mother saw it. Bree's mother called Bree. Bree's mother asked if everything was okay at home. Bree told her what was happening and her mom said, "That's your house. Those people need to go." At least someone in this story has sense. I didn't respond to Connie's post. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I just muted it and kept going. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting. Not because I thought she was right, but because she felt entitled to broadcast my family's business to make herself feel righteous about something she didn't understand at all. Garrett, meanwhile, made no effort to find a new place. No apartment applications. No Craigslist searches. No calls to friends. He continued doing DoorDash shifts in the evening and playing games during the day. Ashton continued going to the salon and coming home and doing nails at my kitchen table even though I'd asked her twice to stop. When I asked the second time, she said, "I'm practicing for a client." I said, "Practice somewhere else." She looked at Garrett. Garrett shrugged. She went to the guest room and shut the door. Update 4. The Click. Day 29 of the 30-day notice. I had just finished a 12-hour shift pulling wire at a new Amazon distribution warehouse out in Alliance. If you've never pulled wire in a warehouse in Texas, let me paint you a picture. It's a metal building the size of 6 football fields with no climate control during construction, and you're running 500 MCM feeders through cable tray 30 feet in the air while your hands cramp and your back screams. I drove home in my truck with the windows down because my AC is out and I haven't had time to fix it because I've been too busy supporting 4 adults and 2 kids on my salary. I walked through the front door. The living room furniture had been rearranged. The couch was against the wrong wall. The armchair was turned at an angle. Ashton had apparently decided that the feng shui of my living room wasn't to her liking and took it upon herself to redesign the space. I walked into the kitchen. Emma's drawings that had been hanging on the refrigerator, the one she made in art class, the one of our family with the son and the dog and the big tree in the backyard, were gone. In their place was a magnetic grocery list pad from Dollar Tree. Ashton's grocery list. In my kitchen. On my refrigerator. Where my daughter's artwork used to be. I found Emma's drawings in a stack on the counter near the microwave. Crumpled at the edges where they'd been pulled off carelessly. I walked into the living room. Colton was sitting at the coffee table doing his math homework because Garrett was on the couch playing Call of Duty on the living room TV. On Wes's couch. In Wes's living room. On the TV that Wes bought with a Christmas bonus 2 years ago. Colton looked up at me with that look that kids get when they know something is wrong but they don't have the vocabulary to explain it. He just said, "Hey, Dad." I didn't yell. I didn't slam a door. I didn't say a word to Garrett, who didn't even look up from the screen. I walked through the kitchen, through the utility room, and into the garage. I sat down on an overturned 5-gallon bucket next to my table saw, and I put my hands on my knees, and I breathed. Then I called Bree. She answered on the second ring. She was upstairs. In our bedroom. In our house. And she was whispering. Whispering so that Garrett and Ashton wouldn't hear her talking on the phone. My wife, in her own home, reducing herself to a whisper because 2 people who don't pay rent and didn't ask to be there had taken over every shared space in the house. That's when something clicked. Not anger. I was past anger. Anger is hot and loud and messy. This was something else. Something cold and clean and final. Resolution. I called a locksmith. I explained the situation. He said he could be there the following morning. I called the Justice of the Peace Court in Tarrant County and confirmed the eviction filing process in case I needed it. I had the forms ready. I had copies of the 30-day notice. I had everything documented, every date, every conversation, every text. Then I texted my mother, "Mom, I love you. But I love my wife and kids more. Garrett has 24 hours to leave voluntarily or I'm filing. Don't call me about this again." She read it. I saw the read receipt. She didn't respond. Garrett came out to the garage about 20 minutes later. He leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed and said, "Bro, we need to talk." I looked at him. My little brother. The charming one. The funny one. The one everybody loves and nobody can count on. And I said, "No, we don't. You need to pack." He stood there for a minute. Then he went inside. Update 5. The resolution. They didn't leave because of my notice. They didn't leave because of the legal paperwork or the locksmith appointment or the JP court filing. They left because of Bree. The next morning at 7 a.m., Bree got up before anyone else. She went to the hall closet. She pulled out 2 black hefty garbage bags. She walked into the guest room where Garrett and Ashton were still sleeping, dropped the bags on the foot of the bed, and said, "You have until I get back from Target. If Diesel the cat is still in this house when I walk through that door, I'm opening every window in this house and that cat can figure it out on its own." She didn't yell. She didn't waver. She spoke in the voice she uses maybe twice a year, the one that's calm and flat and absolute, the one that makes you understand that this is not a negotiation and there is no counteroffer and if you test her, you will lose. Nobody argued with Bree when she used that voice. Nobody. She left for Target. She took Emma with her. By the time she got back with a cart full of groceries and new hand towels, because Ashton had stained 2 of ours with hair dye, the guest room was empty. The TCL TV was gone. The diffuser was gone. The gaming PC was gone. Diesel was gone. There were a few orange cat hairs on the carpet and an extension cord they forgot to unplug, but otherwise, the room was cleared out. They went to Sheila's. My mother's 1-bedroom apartment in Weatherford is now housing 3 adults and a fat orange cat named Diesel. I don't know how they're managing the bathroom situation. I don't want to know. The aftermath. Sheila called me 1 week after Garrett moved in with her. Her voice was different. Tired, but not the theatrical tired she puts on when she wants sympathy. Actually tired. She said, "Wesley, I owe you an apology." I waited. She said, "Ashton used my good towels to clean up a hairball. The set your Aunt Patty gave me. The cream-colored ones." I almost laughed. I swear to God, I almost did. But I just said, "I'm sorry, Mom." She said, "You were right. I just didn't want to see it." I don't know if she really sees it now or if she's just frustrated because the consequences finally landed on her doorstep instead of mine. But she said the words. And for now, that's enough. Garrett hasn't spoken to me in 3 weeks. No calls, no texts, nothing. I don't know if he's angry or embarrassed or if he's just moved on to the next person he'll charm and then burden. I miss my brother. Not the version that lived in my house and ate my food and let his girlfriend rearrange my living room, but the version from before. The one who used to ride bikes with me down Vickery Boulevard when we were kids. The one who made me laugh until I couldn't breathe. I don't know if that version still exists, or if it ever really did, or if I just wanted it to badly enough that I built it in my head. Bree threw away the eucalyptus diffuser. She found it under the bathroom sink where Ashton had left it. She didn't even open the trash can. She walked it straight to the dumpster in the alley and tossed it in like it was contaminated. When she came back inside, she stood in the living room, furniture back where it belongs, and said, "I can finally breathe in my own house." Colton has his TV back. He and I watched the Mavericks game last Thursday on the couch without anyone else playing Call of Duty or sitting in the recliner or making the room smell like a spa that got its aromatherapy license from YouTube. Emma's drawings are back on the fridge. All 4 of them. The family one. The dog one. The tree one. And a new one she made at school. A picture of our house with a big yellow sun and green grass and a stick figure family of 4. Just 4. She brought it home and handed it to me and said, "This is us, Daddy." I put it front and center on the refrigerator with the good magnets. The ones that actually hold. The acetone stain on the kitchen table won't come out. I've tried everything. Bree suggested we get a new table. I said no. I want to keep it. She asked why. I said, because every time I sit down and feel that spot, I remember what happens when you let people take your kindness and mistake it for weakness. I remember what it costs to wait too long to say no. And I remember that the next time someone asks me to do something that doesn't feel right, I don't owe them an explanation. I just owe my family a locked door. Bree looked at me for a long second. Then she said, "You're dramatic." But she smiled when she said it. So Reddit, I evicted my brother. My mother cried. My aunt put me on blast on Facebook. My brother hasn't spoken to me in 3 weeks. My kids are happy. My wife can walk around the house at full volume again. And there's a stain on my kitchen table that I'm choosing to keep. AITA. Edit. Since a few people asked, no, Garrett never did pay me anything. Not $1. I added up the rough costs of having them here. Extra electricity, $140 per month x 3 months equals $420. Groceries, we estimated an extra $250 per month equals $750. And miscellaneous stuff they used or damaged, Bree shampoo, the towels, the table, probably another $200. Total, roughly $1,370. I'm not going to ask for it. Not because I don't deserve it, but because chasing that money would mean keeping a door open that I need to stay closed. Edit 2. For everyone asking about Diesel the cat, as far as I know, Diesel is alive and well and shedding all over my mother's apartment in Weatherford. Sheila sent Bree a picture last week of Diesel sitting on her kitchen counter. Bree showed me and said, "Not our problem anymore." She's right. But I do hope that cat is okay. He didn't ask to be part of this mess either. Edit 3. Bree is reading the comments. She wants everyone to know that the shampoo was Olaplex number 4, not just some $32 shampoo, and that she's still not over it. She also says thank you to everyone who said she handled the morning of the move out like a queen. She's eating more Blue Bell right now and says she deserves it. She does. TLDR, let my brother stay, temporarily. He moved in his girlfriend and her cat without asking. They freeloaded for 3 months, my mom took a side, I served a legal 30-day notice, my wife dropped garbage bags on their bed at 7 a.m. and told them to leave, they moved in with my mom finally understood when the girlfriend ruined her good towels, and I'm keeping the acetone stain on my kitchen table as a monument to boundaries.